Okay, welcome back. And now we're going to get everything ready to export our UVs. I'm going to use Photoshop to texture these, but you could use other texturing software as well. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to do a little housekeeping. Minimize that for a second. Up here, I'm going to name this my building. I think this was building number 8 for me, so I'm going to call it building 8. And I'm also going to select my object for object mode, select my object, and I'm going to go into edit. I'm going to delete by type history. And what that does is all of the additional things that we were working on have now disappeared, and we're down to our basic stuff here. And I'm also going to go to modify, and I'm going to freeze transformations to keep everything locked in where it's at. Now I am going to open up my UV editor again, select my building. Here are all my UVs. I'm going to select all of my UVs so that they're now highlighted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the camera tool here, and I'm going to set this up for my building number 8. So I'm going to change it here. If you've not done this before, you can hit browse, and you want to save it in your projects under images, and make sure you identify this as a UV so that you know what it is. Set your format type to PNG. That's what I usually like to do, but you do have some other choices. I'm kind of using PNG. And then 20 by 48 and 20 by 48. You can use other pixel sizes as well, but I typically use 2048, just easy to remember. And you can change this edge color if you like. I'm going to leave mine blue. And I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and close. And now what it has done is if I go into my project, into my images, let's see that I now have building number 8, and here are all my UVs laid out. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Photoshop. Here's the project I previously worked on, so I'm going to go ahead and go to File, New. I'm going to use these same textures, but I'm going to set them up a little bit differently because the building that we've just made is a little bit more complicated. And I'm going to name this building 8 so I can keep track of it, and I'm going to call this my textures. Make sure you set this to pixels, and then 20 by 48 for both height and width, 2048, 2048. And then I'm going to hit create. So now I'm going to take that UV from my file right here, and I'm going to just click and drag it in, and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to hit enter. I'm not going to move it. I don't want to resize it or anything. It has to be exactly the same setup as how we had the UVs. So it's got to be exactly the same. And now with it highlighted, I'm going to lock it and keep it there. Okay, so now I am going to find my textures. And I had put them all into my source images for my project. Let me pull that up here just a second. So under my city buildings projects, under source images, I have a lot of different textures I'm going to use, my storefronts, my building, and such. So now I'm going to start with the building. I'm going to bring that in, I'm going to drop it, and I am going to shrink it down fairly significantly. I'm shooting for the middle line here. If I hit Control plus a few times and then scroll it down and over, I can zoom in, make sure I line everything up the way I want it. And I'm going to shrink this down somewhat because I'm going to stack these on top of each other. So I'm going to hit enter and set it. And then I am going to duplicate that layer, drag it up. What I'm going to do is grab my texture, my UV map here, and I'm going to drag it to the top. That way I can see my outlines around my building. And that'll give me a chance to get some of this stuff set up. So now that I have it, I'm going to hit Control T. I'm going to push this down just a little bit. Looks like we might. Okay, and I'm going to select the next one by hitting Enter on this one. Select that one, and I'm going to drag it down just a little bit. Control minus to see how everything's lining up. Control T on that one, and I'm going to push that down just a little bit. All right, so now I have my general texture for that. Hit minus a couple times. Hit Enter. I'm going to select both of these layers by holding Shift and clicking on them, or you can do it over here. Now I'm going to right-click, duplicate layer. Say OK, and drag it over, line everything up. Go. Do it again. Say OK. Line everything up. I'm not sure that one came out the way I wanted it to. All right, well, let's go with that for the moment. And then I'm going to select these two again. Right click, duplicate layer, say OK, and then drag these to the end. And there we have that. Now we can see how this is looking. So let's go and File, Save. It's going to say what? And I'm going to say I want to save it as building 8 textures into my source images for my city buildings. And I'm going to save. I'm going to say OK. Now what I'm going to do is go back to my project, minimize this UV out of the way. With my building completely selected, I'm going to go to Object Mode, select my building. I'm going to right-click, hold, go to Assign New Material, select Arnold, Standard Surface. This will come up. I'm going to call this my building texture. Hit Enter. Under Base, where it says Color, right here at the checker flag, I'm going to click on that, select my file, go back and select the file folder. Right here for my building 8 textures under my source images. See how it's saved right in there and knew exactly where to look. I'm going to go ahead and say Open, and then I'm going to hit 6 on my keyboard. And one other thing I want to do is go back to my building texture, and I'm going to push my roughness up. I don't want it to be nice and shiny. I want it to look kind of rough, like a brick. I'm going to take a look and see how this looks on my object. Okay, let's go ahead and hit File, Save. Since things are acting a little weird, I don't want to lose what I've done so far. And I can take a look and see that my texture is looking okay. And that's the first piece of it. All right, so now I'm going to bring my Photoshop back up. Okay, and track this out a little bit. I might have just made a mistake down here. Around the wrong keys, forgetting which program I was in. I think I might have. No, we'll get okay. All right. So now that's the first piece of it. This is the bottom right here. I'm not going to worry about doing anything with the bottom. These are my top pieces, my roof. This is the one storefront that I'm going to use this picture for right here. So I'm going to click, drag that in. I shrink it down. Set that up in here. And I want to keep my UV map at the top. So I'm going to hit enter again, pull that back up to the top. Should automatically do it. Not sure what happened. Control plus. And what I want to do for this one is this yellow piece right here is what's going to go up in this spot up here in the top. So I am going to just frame my building, my actual texture here inside of this area here. So I'm going to hit Control T, select it, Control T, and I'm going to adjust it so that my texture fits within inside the box here around the window. I'm going to pull this section up just a little bit right there. You can see that it looks like it has a white underneath under there, so I'm going to actually pull it up to the window, probably right about there. Okay, so now it looks like it's boxed in pretty good. I'm going to hit enter and seed it. I'm going to erase this area right up in here. So I'm going to use my erase tool right here. Click on it. It says it must be rasterized. I'm going to say OK. And I'm just going to erase this. Doesn't have to be super clean erase because the only thing that's going to be seen are inside the blue lines. And that should be okay for that. So now what I'm going to do is go back to my selection tool. I'm going to bring this piece back in again. And Control minus, shrink it down, and move it so that this piece fits inside there. That. And I need to grab this side and shrink it down to here. Right there. I think I've got it the way I want it. Looks pretty good. I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm going to use my erase tool again. Okay. And I'm going to save this while I can. Okay. Erase all of this. Now I'm going to apply just sort of a generic white texture to this piece on the bottom here, and then a black texture for the roof up here. So just some color. So this doesn't have to be perfect down here either. It just needs to get close enough. I'm going to say save again. And if we go back to Maya, take a look at it, we can take a look and see our storefront. Oh yeah, we're having all kinds of fun. All right, so I'm going to continue forward. I'm going to pause the video, and when I get to another area where I need some explanation, I'll go ahead and start it back up. For right now, I'm going to pause it. Okay, welcome back. So I've been applying some textures, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this previous texture that I had, and I'm going to modify it so that I can use these squares right in here, and then repeat them, because I want to keep the same style and color of squares that of bricks that I was using before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eraser tool, and I'm going to erase some of the stuff I don't need and try to get it down to just this one set of bricks right in here. And do it quickly first. So you can see it's pretty easy to erase it. And the hard part is when you get in close to erase as we go along. There we go. The computer's really struggling right now for some reason. It must be doing something in the background. I'll have to see what's up in a minute. All right. So I need to save on this. I don't lose it. I'm going to shrink my eraser size down. As you can see, we can get down into the pixels. Shrink this down a little bit more. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and once I get the textures done, I will bring it back up and show you. Okay, so the texturing took a little while, and I had to fight with the bricks, but ended up changing it up to these sort of brownish bricks along the top, and along the side back here I changed these up a little bit from what I had before. But overall, this is what the building looks like right now, and here is what the texture came out to look like. And that's what we've got. So that's it for this video. You got the general idea, so I'm going to let you go ahead and make some different buildings and have fun with it. And this is the end of this series, and I'll start back up with another series pretty shortly. Have a good night.